tab. Assuming that I can. It doesn't. There we go. Alright, send out Twitter stuff. Get the bot going. And alright. I think everything's taken care of. So, hello everyone. This is Chris Ingerson, and it is April 3rd, and this is the April 3rd TextQuest Devstream. Hello Anthony. Welcome back. How are you doing today? Oh man, got in like right as soon as I started. Threw off my whole opening rhythm. Don't worry, that's exciting. Alright, so today we are going to be focusing on some combat prototyping. I've been wanting to revise the combat system for a while, and to show you why, I'm gonna play through combat. I'm gonna talk a little bit about it, and then I'm gonna show you the setup for it. And once I show you the setup, for those who haven't seen me develop it before, I think you'll have an idea of why I would like to do a little bit of a revision. I was going to say it's nothing major, except it's probably going to be like total revision of the entire system, but it will be for a good reason. Let me go ahead and maximize on play here. All right, doing okay. That's good. I am, as always, we'll see how this test stream goes, but in general, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. Finally recovered fully from GDC. Getting back, well, I guess I got back into the swing of things about halfway through last week. But, picking up, trucking along, trying to get everything done. All right, so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and continue. I'm going to transition back to the sewers real quick. I'm going to show you what combat is. /does/ how it works. Oh man, really? Wow, that's a brutal lag spike. I need to figure out if there's a way for me to reduce that lag spike in level loading, because it really does make things rather annoying. Alright, so currently combat is done like this. Let me go ahead and mute so I don't have to talk over music and sound effects. Alright, so combat is currently heavily inspired by the likes of, say, something like Paper Mario or Final Fantasy, sort of a more turn-based RPG. Now, of course, it's obviously mostly inspired by things like Typing of the Dead, where once you actually attack, you have these words that you have to type, and that works, and I like it, but it's not as engaging as I would like. And in particular, I think that people tend to either be really good at this or really bad at it. So for example, younger kids that haven't really learned how to type yet do seem to struggle with it, and that's fine, because again, combat is always optional. But even the people that really do like it, I think that they are... The impression that I've gotten has been that it is enjoyable, but this cannot be it. Like, this cannot be the sole thing that combat is. Because combat in this game is not... It's not ubiquitous enough to be a system that I have to just tell people to bear. Like, I can't just say, it's combat, you gotta grind through it. Because that's not really a good answer. And having different types of attacks and different words that happen, or different words that show up, depending on if... Oh, I don't have it, sadly. Depending on what your equipped item is, like, that's all well and fine, but it doesn't really change enough of the core mechanics to make fighting in and of itself interesting. So I have... Let's see, how many combat situations do I have so far? 1, 2... 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's probably about 8-ish in the entire game that I can think of right now. And of course, out of all of them, only the troll is really done. But all of them having this style of, typing in combat, typing out words, and basically just being correct or being a good typist. That's not really interesting, and I feel over time it'll make combat more tedious than enjoyable. So I want to revamp this system a little bit to make it um, something that is fun to watch and play on your first playthrough, um, and something that I can scale fairly easily in future fights. Because later fights are going to need to be a little bit more complicated, and as it is right now, the only thing I can really scale, the only thing that I can really do to make fights harder, is make the enemy faster at typing. So, for example, you can see that over on the right, you'll see that some words appear and they kind of get typed in. And the idea there is that the enemy is typing words with you, but that's not really very explicit. And it's not something that I've really had anyone ever comment on, so I don't think people really even notice it. Um, but you could see the reason I did that is so that you could relatively see how well enemies type. Um, but that's not interesting. That doesn't really make people get invested in combat. And I want to make something that feels good to play and is really cool to play as well. Um, so the system that I am planning on implementing is still heavily inspired by Typing of the Dead, but it's actually more inspired in the sense of the structure of Typing of the Dead, where it wouldn't necessarily just be single words like I have now, where it's like attack or kick or hit. Instead, we would actually have some puzzle elements in the actual combat. So that would entail things like, picking a direction for the player to move, whether you would jump, whether you would go right, then picking whether you would swing, whether you would, I don't know, what other words could I have? And we could do, basically the system I want to implement is something that's a little bit more flexible, and the important thing is that it lets me scale difficulty with later fights, because the amount of words and the length of what you have to type can be easily adjusted, because they wouldn't be associated necessarily with the item that you're holding. Some parts would still be, for example, in the situation where you have combos, so you'd get up to the enemy and then it's just going to do a bunch of rapid fire, like hit, punch, kick, all that sort of thing, which is very reminiscent of what we have now. So we would have small parts where you'd have things like hit, stomp, punch, whatever. But the broad strokes of the combat would be a little bit more interesting in that you would have, maybe before we get to this rapid fire one word typing segments, we would have like jump and then dodge and then I don't know take a drink because my throat is dry. Anyway, so those are kind of the broad strokes of what I would like to do. So we're going to prototype a fair bit of that today. Oh yes, and I promised that I would show you what combat looks like, didn't I? So let's go ahead and look up TQ combat. Now this is the current combat script for, well, this is one of the scripts that manages combat. And combat is kind of a massive tangle of UI and a logic controller, kind of. So it's split between a couple of scripts that really make it kind of annoying to work with. So let's see, TQ combat. I'm also going to go ahead and close some of my other scripts that I don't really need open right now. So first up, I'm going to give you a line count. 845 lines, which is a pretty beefy class. And to be fair, for something like this, which is not necessarily highly specific, but is still kind of specific, is pretty rigid in its structure. That's really, really hard for me to really do anything. I mean, everything's kind of based on callbacks, which itself is fine. In fact, that's actually the structure I would probably continue to use. But I have tons of these, enemy type attacks coroutines. I have these, the actual coroutine that handles the player attacks, and of course this is all virtual, so it can be completely overridden by subsequent classes. And again, that's all fine, but it makes it somewhat tedious and difficult for me to actually work within this system. I get held back by a lot of refactoring that I end up having to do, and there's just tons of. I'd like to say that it's not really spaghetti code. I'd like to think that I organized it better than this, but there are definitely some elements of spaghetti code in this. So I would like to just do a little example scene, something small that we can then just add on to make it feel more interesting. And part of this process is going to actually involve implementing Cinemachine, which is Unity's cinematic camera system. They have it's actually really, really cool. It can do a bunch of stuff. Also, it has a slider just for Dutch angles, which I love, because who doesn't love Dutch angles? It's the sign, the hallmark of a great film, one that uses all Dutch angles all the time. See Battlefield Earth. Okay, so let's go ahead and open this up. So this is going to be somewhat, how to phrase this. So the actual UI is not really going to change that much, in the sense that we would still have, I guess I can probably pull that UI in here. Let's see, resources. Pull this up. I'm going to go ahead and pull in my combat. Combat. Here we are. Turn this on. So we'll still have this structure. We'll have, battle, item, and flee. Because you should always be able to run from a fight if you're not confident that you can win it. Or in cases of later fights, it's impossible for you to win it if you don't have the correct items or the correct knowledge of how to beat them. And of course, at the top left will be the player's health, and the top right will be the enemy's health, as well as their name, of course. And this is relatively going to remain unchanged. So we'll still have these three options. The layout will be the same. The inputs will be the same. The only difference is what happens after you choose to battle or equip an item or flee. Although fleeing actually probably will be pretty much untouched. So it'll still just kind of be a bunch of, it'll either be a bunch of individual words for you to type to run away, or I might make it one big sentence and you only get like 3 chances to type it perfectly before it breaks. So we don't need to really worry about UI changes there. As far as UI changes within the scene goes, so I'm talking things like world space UI elements, those actually would be a little different, because instead of them sort of cluttering up around the player and then you typing them out one by one, the player would instead be presented with two or more options sometimes, or potentially just one option. But these would be things that show up in visually interesting ways. So instead of just randomly being cluttered around the player, we might have... Let's throw something together real quick, actually. I guess for now we'll just use the troll. Troll. Because the troll is pretty small and easy, and we can do more crazy things with that. So that's combat, sewer troll, combat. This is attacks. Oh, that's interesting. It is missing scripts. That's never good. What are you? Interesting. You're nothing. Well, that's kind of awkward. Okay, well, I'm going to get rid of you then. Okay, I guess I don't really have the troll in here. Well, that's kind of surprising. Let's go take a look at the combat scene real quick. Scenes, intro, sewer combat. No point to save in this yet. Let's see. Did I just like make you a regular old label? Seems unlikely, but oh my god. Seriously? Unity. I love it when you freeze. Well, while we're waiting for Unity to unfreeze, are you doing anything exciting, Anthony? Or you just been kind of chilling out for a while? All right, there we are. Select you. There we are. All right. And of course, I gotta pet my cat because she decided she wants all the attention in the world, and she wants to just stand in front of my keyboard. Not doing anything interesting, just playing games. What are you playing? I'm going to assume that it's somehow related to a battle royale game. I could be wrong there, though. Okay. Huh. Weird. I have audio clips for them, but they're... Alright. Whatever. So now I know where that is. Let's go ahead and... we'll also grab the hero. So let's select you. Good. Okay. So we're going to make a new scene. We're going to start by just dragging these guys in here, dragging the hero in here. Alright. And this is mostly just so that we can have these... hold on. Figure out which way is which. Ah, jeez. I hate it when it gets like this. So our camera should be... That's probably fine. Whatever. We'll just make this negative 90. Then negative 90. Oh, really? Whatever. Whatever works. That's not at all annoying. Oh, jeez, really? Can I make you like 90 and 0? Oh, look at that. 90. There we go. Okay. Let's go ahead and minimize these. We're going to go ahead and plop in a flat plane. Assuming that I could find one. Well, I was playing Cuphead before. How are you liking that? I still have not played it, actually. I own it now on Steam. I just have not played it. Because reasons. There's no good reason. I just haven't done it. Okay, we're going to scale this up by 5 and 5. That's probably fine. For perspective, I am going to... Ooh, not that. Not that at all. Let's see. I'm assuming there's a Pro Builder meter one that I can use here. Pro Builder... Really? Well, you're no fun. Test. I can certainly do that, but that's not actually right. Huh. Okay. There it is. Oh. I guess that makes sense. It's just using UVs, isn't it? How annoying. Fine. Then I will, we're gonna make this with Pro Builder. Because why not? Nope, not Pro Builder window. New shape editor. There we go. We'll make this a plane. We'll zero this out. 0 and 0. Oh, good. You are weird. Painful. Finished it yesterday. We kept on playing it. Well, it definitely seems like one of those games that you can get a lot of replay value out of. I'm assuming there's tons of secrets to find and lots of combat mechanics to master. I myself have been playing Bayonetta recently. Because I got the Switch version. And I've been trying to get through on hard mode, and that game is brutal on hard mode. It is not very forgiving. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and set that up. With segments 0 and 0, that's all fine. We'll go ahead and turn on ProGrids as well. Okay. Yeah, I think that's fine. So we're just going to make it this kind of squarish layout. Build plane. I'm going to decrease the intensity of our directional light. No shadows for now, kind of pointless. And let's see here. Set you back at -15 by -15. Let's go ahead and position our player characters a little bit more. Thinking. Seems good. Go ahead and move our main camera forward a little bit. Here over one more. Not bad. I don't like this gradient is happening. So let's go ahead and change our lighting real quick. We're going to make this nothing. There we go. That helps a lot. We'll just make this a color. And let's go ahead and no, it's fine. Okay. So, first things first, we're going to want to clear my throat. I apologize for my throat clearing. Don't know what's happening, but today I've been not really coughing so much as just clearing my throat all the time. It's very frustrating, so I apologize. All right, I'm going to call this combat. Wow, I can't spell. Combat test. Come on, capital T. There we are. We will put this under our test. Let's go ahead and add a new folder called combat. Hit save. All right. So very much, this is probably going to go the way that we handled our music system refactor, where I just completely write a new one from scratch. Usually one that takes a third the amount of lines and is way more extendable. So this is going to be fun. We'll go to test, go to combat, let's go to create folder scripts. All right, so we're going to call this. Actually, no. Before we do anything else, I do need to go to the asset store, and I need to update Cinemachine because I think there is an update to it. So I will do that. If Unity lets me. Oh, right. And before I forget, we're going to be coding and design today. I think both of those. That seems right. All right, so let's see. That's that. That's that. Update that. Got a couple of things I need to update. But the one that I am interested in is Cinemachine, which is all the way at the top because it's alphabetical. Let's see. Let's go ahead and import this. I think we're mostly up to date. Okay, I guess I don't need to do anything. Oh wait, does this have... No, it's 2017. It doesn't have the package manager. Huh. I wonder... Okay, maybe I already updated it? Whatever. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and create... Oh, that's kind of disappointing. There is no context command for this. Why do you do that to me? Cinemachine, we're going to create a virtual camera. Oh, why did I do that? That was stupid of me. I should have kept its positioning. Oh well. I can manually position this. So, for those who do not know, Cinemachine... Oh, that's interesting. Cinemachine is Unity's cinematic tool sequencer kind of thing. Wow, this is super awkward. It like blends to its position, and that causes really weird problems. Anyway, you can control cameras with the virtual camera here, and I'm going to go ahead and position this one more back because that's where we are. All right, this is where we were originally, I believe. Yep, 1y, negative 10z. Move it up one. Okay. So these are fairly far apart. We might end up moving them just a smidge closer together, just to make them more centered. All right. So, with this, we're going to place a greater emphasis on camera movement and camera targeting. And what I mean by that is that instead of having a largely static camera like we currently have, excuse me, where the camera is kind of like a zoomed out, dispassionate viewer that sees everything in the scene, we actually want our camera to move a little bit, and that can be anything from something as subtle as like looking left when the player is moving and then following them along as they move over to the right, all the way up to crazy bombastic, like I'm making motions with my hand that none of you can see. um, to pretty crazy camera movements, really. Um, and part of the reason that we're using Cinemachine is because it lets me blend between those shots fairly easily, and we're going to need that functionality. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and turn off all of those transposers because we don't need them yet. So our initial camera here is just going to be called, we'll call it idle cam. So the idle cam is going to be a camera that is the camera that is used when we are between turns. So this is when we're going to be shown our options for, attack, item, or flee. So this will be what we want it to see roughly, and we'll blend over to this when we get to that stage. Now, the next thing, we're going to go ahead and create another virtual camera. I will go ahead and position it at the exact same spot for now. We're going to paste this in. So this is going to be a little bit more tricky because the camera movements would probably be fairly... How do I want to phrase this? Would probably be slightly different depending on what the combat situation is. So combat against the troll, for example, will be different from combat against the spider. Although now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder if it would just be better to have this actually be in first-person view. Because that would actually be, one, slightly more reminiscent of... so I'm going to go ahead. Oh, I can't turn you off. Okay, I'm going to remove you then. Remove you. Because I don't really need you to do anything right now. So we're going to try this. I'm going to rotate you 90 degrees. I'm going to turn the hero off, and we're going to put the idle cam actually back over to here. We will turn the hero back on for a second here. Okay, so we're going to put this back here, rotate you 90 degrees. Wow, that like almost perfectly works out too. That's like pretty much right where the head is. Okay, so now combat would actually be done from a first-person view. That could be interesting. Well, let's try it. So with this, we would still have dynamic camera movements. It's just that they would be presented as a first-person perspective. So that prevents me from doing really dramatic roles, or really dramatic camera posing. Like I can't do something I really did want to do later on would be a shot of the hero standing in front of the flame moth when it does its like dramatic spread. But this could still work. And it also means that I don't have to do something weird where technically the hero, to look right, would have to be facing the camera, which meant that he would be looking away from you, or from the action. Okay, I'm curious about trying this now. So let's go ahead, put the idle cam back on there. I'm going to rename this CM cam to... what do I want to call you? I suppose we'll call this action cam. Yeah, we'll say camera. I don't like saying camera. Not camera. There we go. Camera. All right. And we will also want to have, let's go ahead and duplicate this. For now, copy component, paste component values. All right, we're going to go ahead and just duplicate this. We're going to call this, instead of action camera, we will call this item camera. Item camera. We're not going to have this transposer for anything. So these things like body, aim, noise, all these are procedural adjustments that you can make to Cinemachine to have it, say, always look at an object or have it follow an object. We're probably not ever going to make use of follow an object for now, but we might do something with aim to have it point at something. So we could say composer, and then we can give it a look at target. And to show you what this does, I really hope this works in editor. We're just going to have this target the troll here. All right. So now, if I select my action camera, you can see these lines. Although, what is going on here? Let's turn off ProGrids for a time here. Huh. Oh, right. That's why. I'm going to turn you off. All right. So if I drag this around, you'll notice that it's constantly moving to focus on this point. So we can actually have this smoothly interpolate around things, and it will focus on a given transform. I can make that, it's an arbitrary transform, so we would probably actually have an empty transform below the troll that's more centered than its feet, basically. But with this system, we'll be allowed to have a little bit more flexibility with our approach, because I won't have to constantly keyframe rotations on the camera. Instead, I can just have it kind of softly follow procedurally with Cinemachine. Okay, so let's go ahead and paste these component values back in. We will also, for the time being, do nothing here. So paste those component values back in again. I'm going to paste that in. And, okay. So for the item camera, this is going to be the camera that's used when we actually equip an item. Which itself will be somewhat odd. I will need to figure out how I want to present items being equipped or used, which might end up just being a specific animation that they play, although that's going to be admittedly somewhat more complicated than I would like. But we won't focus on items for now. I want to focus on the actual gameplay. I mean, items are gameplay, but I want to focus on the combat itself. So we switched to a first-person perspective. We are also going to... let's just try this. Okay. So let me pull out my UI. I'm also going to pull out my combat view. I'm going to pet my cat because she wants attention. And then I'm going to turn on combat view. Alright, so how do we want to present this? Well, first up, I am going to probably, well, no, this is kind of awkward. I really wish that I'm just going to move my camera down a little bit. It's slightly too high up. There we go. That's a little bit better. So 7.5. Let's go ahead and copy that. Solo, let's paste that in. Okay, there we go. So now we have a pretty decent shot of the enemy, and we are going to need to come up with the battle system. So let's go down here to our test, to our scripts. We're going to create C# script. I'm going to call this combat system. Open that up. Wow, that's opening. Oh, you did it really quickly. I wasn't expecting that, Visual Studio. I took a drink. I was going to say, wow, it's opening, I'll take a drink, but, you know. Okay, so combat system, it's just going to derive from mono behavior for now. I don't think I really need to do anything else with it. We'll have this be in the text quest namespace, of course, and we are going to want to do a couple of things. Let's see. We will need, and this is going to be the base class for combat, keep in mind, which actually may not need to be extended with my plans for it, although I probably should leave it open to be extended. Okay, so what we're going to need is, let's start out simple, I suppose. So we're going to need some timeline support. We're going to need using Unity engine.playables. I don't think we'll need timeline itself. We just need playables. What else will we need? We'll probably need using TM Pro And I think that will be it. I might not even need the TM Pro, honestly. Uh, okay, so how do we want to do this? We're going to need data sets associated with... Oh, wow, this is... Okay, thinking through it real quick. The way we would probably want to structure this is we have a series of timelines that then all reference themselves. So the timelines would actually be used to control the flow of combat. So, to give you a sense of what we might see once you start this fight, with this new system, let's say you choose to battle. So you type in 1 or you type battle, then you hit enter. Okay, so the bars go off screen, and the hint, type the words to build your combo, show up. Probably wouldn't actually be that. It'd probably be something like choose your action. And then you would be presented with a couple of choices. So first up, I'm going to go ahead and create a 3D canvas. Assuming I can find the canvas. Canvas. There we are. This is going to be a world space canvas. We're going to make this world space. And it is going to be kind of a weird thing. Excuse me. So we're going to need this to be, I guess we'll give it a width of 10 and a height of 10. And we're going to have to scale it at like 0.01 and 0.01 and 0.01, which means that its width would actually be more like 1,000 and 1,000. Nope, not 100, 1,000. Position of 0 and 0. Okay. So we're just kind of going to let this chill out and not really do anything right now, because all we need are the key presses. We're not too worried about clicking or anything like that. Okay. So I'm going to select my prefabs for an attack. So we'll say cat. Yes, I see you. You don't need to get on my keyboard. Okay. So we want to say combat attack, I believe. We're close. Let's see. Of course, that's data. All right. What about attack? Basic attack. There we go. That's good. So if I drag this in underneath this canvas, yeah, we can see that. Good. And if I rotate you by 180, will you show up? Oh, good, you will. Not 180, though. 90. Okay. So, move this around. So you might have something that says like attack and attack, but we're going to change these. So instead of saying attack, it might say like left or right or hit, right? And then we're going to duplicate this, and then we might also get one that says wow, those are not centered at all. I just have to live with that. One that says jump. All right. I really don't like having to live with that. There we go. So you're given now 3 choices, and depending on which choice you make, that will change the flow of combat. So we might actually have 3 unique animations. We'll have one if you choose to go left, one if you choose to go right, and one if you choose to jump. Now, in the case of the troll, this is actually a pretty decent... This is actually a really good test case, because the troll, it likely won't really change the outcome, depending on which way you go. It's more of just a spice of life thing. Although, actually, you know what? No, that's not true. What probably should happen is, again, to make combat a little more strategic, you will have to consider what the enemy does and anything they're carrying. So, for example, the troll might have a club. Let's go ahead and give him a club. So I'm going to create 3D object, text mesh pro text, and this is just going to be a really quick and dirty thing. I'll swap you out for 8-bit font, and have you say club. Oh wow, it's super massive, because of course it is. It's always super massive. I'm going to set you to have a width of 5-ish. We'll have you be centered, and we'll have you... Oh, that's not the centering I wanted. We'll actually probably have you be parented at the bottom like that. That's good. And we're going to shrink you down. So a scale of 0.1. Yep, 0.1 looks good. 0.1 does not look good. Gotta bring that back up. What are you at, troll? Really? You just scaled very largely. Font size 8. Oh, that's fair. Let's change you down to 8. Scale you back up to 1. All right. Yeah, that's pretty good. Oops. Cool. So let's go ahead and we're going to shrink you in by 1. Shrink you down by... not bad. All right. So let's move this into position. I'm going to rotate this real quick. And this is, going to be obviously a quick and dirty thing. Like not even close to what the final example might be, but or what the final setup might be, but this is a good example. So we're going to change this to, it's obviously a club, so like brownish, I'm thinking. That's more orange than brown. Something like that. Sure. Give it a line spacing of negative, not negative 40, negative 10. Oh, not positive 10, negative 10. Whatever. Let's go ahead and move this into position. So the troll might have, say, a club. And that club might be on his left side. So if you go left, when the troll has a club on the left side of him, technically it would be his right, but if you go that way, then he might just counterattack you and instantly bash you into the floor. So you want to make sure that you go to the right or jump in this case. And of course, after that, he might switch his club over to the right, and then if you go right, he'll bash you there, so you don't want to go right, instead you want to go left. And then, I don't know, like, what would be a good upper one? Who knows? But you get the idea of this. You want to pay attention to what the enemy is doing with its, for lack of a better term, body language, and any items that it might be holding. Now, this becomes more interesting as you fight different opponents, because the fight after the troll is the giant spider. That's the closest fight, I believe. And the giant spider has a different appearance. Let me go ahead and pull it in real quick. It's not going to be exactly correct, but it'll show you what it looks like at the very least. So, oh my god, it's so tiny. Well, that's weird. Okay. So this is what the giant spider looks like. This back. So it's interesting. It's always just rendering on top of the troll. That's useful information. So it's a fair amount larger, or at the very least wider, than the troll. But it's actually going to be presented in a different light. Unlike the troll, which is going to be in front of you all the time, the spider will actually be above you a fair amount. And that's because in order for you to hit it, you have to have an item equipped. You won't be able to punch it to death, basically. So there are things like that you'll have to consider. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Focus on the troll for now. So we're going to need to come up with a system that recognizes stances for enemies and has different timelines depending on what you do. So if you choose left, then it'll play a specific timeline. And if you choose left while there's a club on the left side, then it will play a different timeline, which means that I'm going to, of course, put more effort into this than I really need to, but, that's what makes things cool. So we need to come up with a system that allows for timelines based on certain criteria, which means sets of timelines associated with stances. Okay. And then, of course, those timelines will need to be able to cross-reference one another, because there's no real sense in having one big timeline where, let's say, you go left and then we have a camera shot of you, like, swinging to the left, avoiding the club, and then, actually, you know what? That could be pretty good. So, let's say you type left. Okay, so once you type left, then the other options disappear. The camera will start moving over that way. We'll have the troll swing his club at you. Okay, now you're going to be given a prompt. There's only one choice this time. It's going to be on the club, and it's going to say something like dodge. Okay. So if you type dodge, then we're going to have you jump over the swing, and then it'll transition to the next one. If you fail to type dodge, or if you run out of time, then he'll hit you back. You'll lose 1 health, and you'll go back to this initial screen. It won't be, I'm sorry, it won't actually be the initial screen here. It'll be this initial screen. Then if you choose to fight again, you'll be presented with these options. He might shuffle his stance a little bit. And then, we'll begin the process anew. Now let's say that you go left in this case. Okay, the club gets swung. You type dodge, you avoid it. All right, then you get to the final part of this, because this is the troll, it's the introduction to combat. So the final portion, after you dodge the club, will be just a series of attacks. And that's going to be pretty much what we have currently, where it's like, hit, punch, kick, squash, or step, or whatever it has. I don't think it's squash, I think it's stomp. Anyway, and then once that's done, your character will jump back, the action will play out, the troll will pick itself back up, move into position, then of course you'll be back at the initial screen. So that's kind of what a turn would look like if you fought. If you did an item, it would probably be something a little different. We'd probably have the item get pulled out of your inventory, and it might get flung into the air or something. I don't know, depending on how flourishy we want to be. And then you have to type a bunch of equip, hold, whatever. Basically the same thing that it does now. And then if you successfully do that, then you'll equip. Fleeing, pretty much the same. It'll probably have the camera turn around and show it looking over the shoulder, doing some silly camera moves to make it feel more like a first-person view. And then if you type your words out enough, or you type the sentence that gets presented to you, then you'll escape. Okay, so let's go ahead and get back to here. So we are going to have our basic attack. So we're going to want to have a combat attack. And this is where it's going to be fun. I actually don't know if my combat system right now requires spaces. I don't think it does. I think I explicitly set it up so that you don't have to type spaces, but we'll see. So we're going to say serialized field. We'll make it protected. Protected. Combat attack. We'll say attack prompt. No, we'll say attack prefab, I guess. Okay. So that's going to be the thing that we spawn in, and to show you the words that you have to type, and of course that is just these three things. After that, we're going to need a series of... we're going to need some data. So let's save that, let that compile, and while that is happening, we are going to create nothing, because it finished compilation super fast, so now I gotta wait for it to finish. Alright. And let's see. So I want to come up here, and we're going to create a new script. I'm going to call it combat data. No. Combat action, maybe? Actually, I guess we'll go ahead and say combat. Yeah, we'll say combat action. I think that will work. I'm a little concerned. I'm a little concerned about how this is going to work in more complicated fights, because I might have, well, not, there's no might about it. Later boss fights will have state changes. And I don't mean state changes like I was talking with the troll in the club, how you might, shift the club over from left to right. I mean state changes like after they're about to die, like they're down to 1 health, they might change posture entirely. So you have to do one completely new attack sequence. I don't know how I'm going to handle that, because actually, you know what? No, I can handle that fairly easily. Let's... How do I want to do this? It would essentially just be a serialized class. Also, I really want to make sure that I don't have multiple things called combat actions. Please tell me I don't. Crap! I do. Crap! I knew it! I knew it! I thought I had a combat action. But it's not that. Okay, so I can't use combat action. That's been taken already. Sadly. So I need a different name. I suppose I could call it combat stage. Once this finishes compiling, I'm going to make sure that I don't have that already. So let's look for combat stage. Okay, good. What about combat stance? Don't have that either. Stance might make more sense, but it's just a collection of data. Combat stance makes it sound like an enum, but so does combat stage, really. So let's go ahead and create C# script. We're going to call this, I suppose, combat stance. Now, here's another thing that gets kind of tricky. Should I have a list of words that can show up here? Like, I don't really know what it would be besides left, right, and jump in this case. But I could like have a list of words that it randomly picks from, and that might make things feel a little bit more varied. But no, actually, you know what? No, I don't want to do that. I think it'll be better for them to have static string values that don't change. That way, you know what you're getting. If I start changing names around, then you'll never really be sure what your options are, because you, like I said, I do intend to have stages where the actual options do change. So it would be confusing if you don't change stages, but your words change for what you have to type. That could be a little weird. So, well, I say that, except crap. It's not really a viable option, is it? Okay. Okay, I think I know what I'm going to do here. So we're going to go ahead and have a combat stance. This is not going to be a mono behavior. It is going to be a system.serializable. It's also going to be in our text quest namespace. And let's see, what else do I want to do in here? So combat stance itself is actually going to be a serialized class that contains other serialized classes because it needs to have a list of data. So we're going to change combat action. Oh, I got to delete combat action actually. Well, okay. While that's compiling, let's see. What should I do? I should probably, before I forget, talk about Discord, by which I mean the Discord channel. So, for those who are watching and who have not, I can't spell Discord apparently. For those who have not joined already, we do have a Discord channel set up for text quests where I like to post occasionally whenever I have something cool. Although I'm trying to do better at that. So if you're curious about progress on the game, feel free to follow us on Discord or join the server or do something. I don't know. How's the drag and drop? Drag and drop's pretty good. We're focusing on combat revisions today. But I do have the drag and drop stuff working. Well, the dragging part. I don't really have drag and drop. I just have the dragging part because I don't really need drag and drop. It's more about just moving things into position. But it's coming along pretty well. It's really annoying that I had to use a super convoluted method of doing drag because you basically have to use this rect transform utility class and then call a specific function that takes a bunch of parameters and then puts out a specific vector 2 for its positioning. And then you have to subtract that. It gets into a mess. But it works, so you know, what are you going to do? Also, hello Garrett, welcome back. How are you doing today? Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll create a new script. We'll call this, I really want to call it combat action, but I can't. So, wow, Smobat. Combat action. What is the first one here? Wow, really? It's a freaking enum. Well, go figure. Let's go ahead and open this up. Going to be used in a lot of places. I am going to change you to say combat action ID. Combat action ID. Do I not already have that? Yay, I don't. Cool. So we're going to go ahead and rename this to combat action ID. This is the old system, so I'm not really actually that concerned with it, but I do need to make sure that it's correct. So let's go ahead and rename you. Combat action ID. Come on. Here or up here. I don't know where it is. I don't know where stuff is anymore. Okay, here we are. Put this That's the correct namespace. Text class. We'll let all that compile. Then we'll go back. Doing okay. Screwing around with recording setup. Maybe start streaming soon. Oh, exciting! Getting back into streaming. What are you thinking of using? Still going to do... Did you do OBS before, or were you using XSplit? Or Fraps? Fraps is fine, I guess. I just got used to OBS. Or I guess you could use Mixer. I've not really messed with that interface at all. But there's some competition that Unity's doing. Let me find it real quick, actually. Let's see. Wow, really? You have a blog post about it that comes up first, but not the actual announcements? Are you serious? This is so annoying. There we go. Anyway, what I was saying is that there is a competition that Unity's holding right now with Universal, which apparently owns the rights to Turok. But they have something about integrating Windows Mixer into your game pitch that you have for them. OBS on Twitch. Okay, I guess that's true. You could have streamed to YouTube, or I guess to Mixer, because I think that's a platform in and of itself. Or does that stream to Twitch? I don't know. I wasn't really too sure on that. Anyway, so this is not a mono behavior. It is a base class. So we're going to make it a not serialized field. System.serializable. All right, and this is going to be something that requires using Unity Engine.playables. Okay, so we're going to need a couple of things. Combat action is going to require a string, so we're going to say public string. I don't know what to call this command. Ugh, gross. I can actually make this also a struct. And then public, I guess it would be a playable director. Okay. So the command is, let's go ahead and do a tooltip. This is the string the player must type to select this action. Okay, so let's pull this out. We're going to say this, nope, not that. And this will be the playable director that will play the action. Okay. And let's go ahead and let that compile. Oh, crap. You know what? No. I was a fool. If I wanted to stream gaming, I do have a few YouTube subscribers that might watch, so... Oh, cool. But I suspect Twitch Mixer, YouTube are going to be competing like crazy over the next couple of years for gaming plugins. Yeah, it's really unfortunate because they're doing that really annoying thing where if you're like a Twitch affiliate or a Twitch partner, you are not allowed to stream on other platforms. Your content must go up on Twitch first, and then you have a 24-hour period, I think, where after that period is passed, then you can put things up on other services, but you can't stream simultaneously across all of the platforms. Which, to be fair, would be pretty impressive anyway because of the bandwidth that would consume, but, Okay, so we need to go back to combat stance. So combat stance is going to have a list of... Oh, crud. That's a little annoying. I guess I don't really have a way of organizing that, but fine. So we'll have public, combat, action. We'll have an array of that, and these will be our actions. It's equal to new, combat action 0. So this is the tooltip. List of actions the player can take. Right, okay. Crud! No, that gets complicated. Oh, jeez. Time out. Combat action might have to have criteria. So we have the command and the timeline. Those are the two basic components. But then we have things like special options that should open up if you have certain items equipped, or randomized possible actions. So you could have multiple actions per stance, but maybe only. No, no, this would be controlled by no crap. Okay. Let me think. We're gonna need public. Dang it! Did I really do? Okay, what did I use? Music trigger. Let's see. Where are you? Trigger data ID value. That's what I wanted. So data ID value criteria. Okay. Criteria for this action being possible. Okay. Hello, Galactic Owl. Welcome back. William was going to play with Mixer, then realized he couldn't as a Twitch partner. Oh, that's a shame. Huh. Really? I didn't realize that was a thing. Restream. So you just like stream to restream and it can stream to multiple services? Huh. That's kind of cool. But yeah, it's just kind of a shame though that I don't actually know if YouTube has a similar policy to Twitch, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. And I would also not be surprised if Mixer had something like that as well. Although I would say it would be pretty baller of Microsoft if they were willing to just eat that loss potentially, because that would make them much more attractive as a streaming site. Even if it means that they wouldn't be getting primary content, it would mean that, well, no, that wouldn't make sense. Like that's the thing with these is like the moment that one service throws up that whole like basically non-compete agreement, then like the other sites have to do that too because it doesn't make sense otherwise. Um, freaking businesses, man. All right, actually, that's entirely false. If they just realized that it would be better if players could stream to, or that streamers could just use their services whenever they wanted, then that would be a lot easier, I think, for everyone. And I feel like they would actually get a lot more money because you would be able to have them all stream simultaneously, and at that point, it's literally just their services that matter. Come on, freaking line endings. Okay, there we are. Okay, so let's go over here to combat system. We are going to have to start a series of combat stances. So we're going to say serialized field, protected, combat stance. I guess it would be an array. We'll say stances. What's new? Combat stance of 0. All right. Let's do a couple of things. First up, we're going to rename you to club. I lied. We're not going to do anything because it's compiling. So I'm going to take a drink. Also, Galactic Owl, how are you doing tonight? Let's see. So we're going to call you club. We're going to turn off canvas for now. We don't really care about you. We'll keep our UI up here, although we will eventually turn it off. I'm going to go ahead and create an empty object and call this Combat Manager. Oh my god, if I could spell it. Combat. No, Combat Manager is fine. Okay, pull in Combat System. Alright, so the attack is going to be nothing because I hate that it can't freaking search through the entire thing for this. So, let's see. Good. We will have, let's do one stance for now. Going to be a list of actions. We're going to have 3. Okay. So we're going to have left, right, and jump. Okay, we will have playable directors and criteria. So let's go ahead and do a couple of things real quick. First up, I am going to create a property drawer for my combat action. So editor folder. Good, good. Taking a break and playing some Sea of Thieves. Cool. Are you liking that so far? It, from what I heard, it seems like it basically imploded on launch. Like it wasn't that interesting or something. Like the missions are repetitive. I could be wrong on that. That's just seemed to be the feeling I was getting from the community. Okay, so I'm going to call this Combat Action Drawer. Although, to be fair, like I wasn't really that engaged with Sea of Thieves even when it was announced. I don't know why I said to be fair there. That doesn't really make sense. But anyway, it was very grindy. Oh, okay. I guess that's true. If you're a WoW player, you'd be like, this is nice. It only took me 3 hours to do this one action. I like it. Okay, so Combat Action Drawer is going to be, of course, in the text quest namespace. It's going to be using Unity Engine. Oh, sorry, no, Unity. I can't spell Unity. Editor. Okay, this is going to be a property drawer, custom property drawer type of, and this is going to be combat action. All right, so we're going to say override, get property height, that will return the base from now, and then we'll say override on GUI, which will do nothing right now. Okay. Couple of things we are going to want to say. Float height is equal to this. Return height, we'll say equal to that. And then we'll say if property dot is expanded, then we're going to do some special calculations. But until then, we don't really care. All right. So for this, I'm going to do some crazy editor scripting, stuff that I haven't done in a while. Let's see. It's fun, but it's fun grindy if you have friends. Okay. I don't know. It seems fine, but for some reason it just didn't really seem to pull me in. Maybe it's just because I really don't like multiplayer focused games. And Sea of Thieves might not be, but I get the impression that it's heavily dependent on having your friends play with you. Or at the very least, it puts emphasis on group missions. But I could be wrong there. It's just that everything I've seen had that. All right, so first things first, we're going to start off by having, let's see, we're going to say if property dot is expanded. We're going to do something. We're going to say probably position dot height is equal to editor GUI. Editor GUI dot single GUI utility dot single line height. Okay, we're good there. And then we're going to do a couple of things. First up is going to be, let's see, we're going to draw. This is going to be fun. So we're going to want to say property dot width. Oh, not property. Position dot width. Oh, jeez. Should I do this? Yeah, I suppose I should. Okay. So we're going to say property dot width times equals 0.45 f. Okay. And we're going to also. Oh crap! That didn't really work. Think. I'm basically going to have to build this backwards. Because of course I will. Okay. So we're going to want, let's see, times 0.45. We'll just cache the value. So we'll say float width is equal to position dot width. Okay. And then we'll multiply that. We'll say position dot x plus equals, and we're going to say width times 0.55 f. So we're going to need to do that. Oh, not that. There we go. Okay, then we're going to draw our first property field, which is going to be, of course, editor GUI dot property field. I apologize in advance for some of the weird stuff. I'm going to kind of do like stream of conscious description of what I'm doing here, and then I'll explain it once it's done. So we're going to say position. Then we're going to need a property, which is going to be property dot find property relative. And that's going to be that, and then it's going to have GUI content dot none because I don't want a label. Okay, so after that, we're going to say what is my thing that I want? Timeline. Timeline. Okay. Then we are going to have to say, let's see. I think we'll say position dot x minus equals position dot width, I believe. And then we will go ahead and do another editor GUI dot property field position property dot find property relative. I believe it was just command or command. Again, same thing. GUI content dot none. All right, and then we will finally end with position dot x minus equals width times 0.1f. That should get us back to our starting position. And then I can say editor GUI dot fold out position. Oh, right. We're just going to say false for now. And then GUI content dot none. Okay, so let's let that compile. And when we look at our combat manager here, we should see our list of combat actions compress pretty heavily. If I did everything right, it should look like a fold-out triangle next to a string field next to a playable director object field. If that's correct. If it is correct, I will be very impressed. Ah, well, look at that. I'm very impressed. That went a lot better than I was expecting it to. Okay. So first things first, we will want to say up here, I'm going to go ahead and say editor GUI draw rect. And oh no, not that. No. Hold on. You know what? I'm going to go up here. I'm going to say using sleepyowl.common.editor. Okay. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say custom editor utility.draw border direct. Please tell me yes, it does. Let me take position. I'm going to pass in position. That's all I care about. Okay, we'll let that compile. So what should happen here is we should see a border rect show up here. Although now that I look at it, my string fields might be pretty big, which is annoying, but it might be fine. We'll find out. Okay. That's not actually what I was hoping for. That's rather unfortunate, especially because it doesn't seem to take into account indentation, which is very sad. So I might not be able to use that, but I might be able to do this. Begin property. No. Dot draw rect. Let's see if I can pass in a style. I can't. Fine. Text area. Position, and then nothing. Let's see if that works. Oh, and then of course, GUI.enabled equals false, and then GUI.enabled equals true. Okay. This is mostly so that I can have isolation. I don't want my my actions here to bleed into one another, so I'm making a custom inspector that will let you expand them to show more information. Otherwise, it will just show you the action name and then the playable director. Although it's curious, they are... I must have must have miscalculated these. Are you for real? Oh, come on. You're telling me that the fold out. Oh, no, no. It's probably because. Yeah, okay. That's because I need to redo these positioning, or the positioning on these fields. They're clearly not right. They should basically be flush with one another, and my anchor should definitely not be outside of the rect. Okay, so I'm going to, one, change this to property.isExpanded, and then we will say property.isExpanded is equal to that. And two, we need to change how we draw these. So I suppose actually, since I'm already caching the width, then I might as well just draw these forward or front to back instead of back to front. And I think it will still be fine. So we're going to do this. Let's get rid of you. We're going to set our position width times equals 0.1. That seems fine. Let's go ahead and grab this, paste you in there, and then we will say position.width is equal to width times 0.45 f. Okay, then we're going to say position.width. Dang it, did that backwards. Position.x plus equals position.width. Okay, put that right flush against it, and then we will draw our next field, and then again we'll say position.x plus equals position.width. Okay, should be good. So let's let that go and see what things look like now. That should be a little bit more accurate. Although for my own sanity, I may end up having a little bit of an offset here. I really, really hate well, no, I guess I should leave those because they line up properly. I hate that the bounding rect here makes it look like our dots are a little too close to the edge. Are you serious? Oh. Really? It's just that bad, huh? Huh. Okay. Really? That's so freaking weird. Okay, fine. Well, let's just make this a hard set value then. So we're going to say, if I had to guess, if I were a betting man, we're just going to say it's equal to editor GUI utility dot single line height. That's going to be our width, and then we will go ahead and just say position x is plugging up, yep, and then it's just going to be equal to width minus position dot width then times 0.5f. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this so that I don't get stupid values. Let's see what this looks like. I'm going to be really, really angry if my arrow is still outside of the box. Actually, it's going to be outside of the box, isn't it? Which means that I have to move it inwards. Ugh. Because of course I do. Alright, let's see if this at least fixes the, Wow! Really? Jeez. Fine. Okay. So I need to do this. We're going to have to say, grab you, paste you right there. Now, this should be a little bit more correct. I really do wish that I didn't have to wait so long for editor GUI stuff to update. Obviously, you have to wait for it to compile, but it just means that it takes so long for this stuff to happen. There we go. That's what I wanted. That's what I obsessively wanted, and this is what I was expecting. Yes. See, it won't let me click on it because it is now underneath the input field. So, we have to do a couple of things. Let's drag this around. Stop. Cool. And then we're going to say position.width is equal to this. No. We're going to grab this. We have to position this last. Okay. I'm also going to go ahead and say float. Cached x is equal to position.x. Okay, and then we'll say it is equal to cached x Um, we're going to say position dot x plus equals editor GUI utility dot single line height. That's all good and well. Let's go ahead and say our width is equal to all of this plus, I don't know, 20f. That seems about right. And then we're going to go ahead and make it equal to this again. Frack. That's fine. Position dot width is equal to this. Okay. So let's see what all of that looks like. Man, all this effort because I wanted to have my fold out be inside of the rect. Oh, good. I have an error. Oh, yeah. That would be right. Well, while this is compiling, anyone playing anything interesting? Besides Anthony, because we know that he is playing Cuphead. Oh, look at that. It just decided to be like, nah, you just get to be weird. Okay. Okay, so let's see. Single line height. Let's get this right. Width minus position not width. Oh, right. Right. So this is actually going to be this. No. No, 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 no. It's going to be minus. I can be lazy. Position dot x. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Ah, editor GUI utility dot single line height. Okay, let's try that. Okay. Trying to finish Sleeping Dogs. How's that going? That's actually a game I never got around to. I own it on Steam. I just haven't played it, and it seems like it would be a really fun game. I'm gonna break somebody's face. That doesn't even make sense. Jeez. Okay, this is clearly being stupid. All right, I overcomplicated this, so we're gonna take this from the top. All right. So we will get rid of these and these and these. And I'm going to do it in order so that it makes sense. All right. So first things, we're going to say position dot width is equal to editor GUI utility dot single line height. Cool. Then we will say position dot x plus equals position dot width. Okay. Let's do this one at a time so that I can position things properly. Trying to finish games, so many. That there are. Started playing Heroes of Hammerwatch. I don't know if I've seen that. How is Heroes of Hammerwatch? Oh wait, maybe I have seen this? Yes, I have seen this. I haven't played it, and I have not really looked into it, but I remember seeing a quick trailer for it. How's Heroes then? Uh, Pretty fun actually. Cool, cool. It's good. I'm not a fan of Batman style combat or cover based shooters. It's both. The story and overall quality are really good. Well, it's good. That's good. It's always exciting to play enjoyable games. Why? What is happening here? Mm. Let me guess. It's doing this because of you. Really, really, really. Huh. Well, okay, fine. Oh. Also, I guess I should, just out of pure paranoia, let people know that there is a storm going on at my place right now, so, if the stream suddenly cuts out, then I'm being murdered by a ghost. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant, power went out, most likely. So with Heroes of Hammerwatch, is there anything that makes it stand out as a roguelike, or is it just kind of another, pretty well done, competently made uh, roguelike game? Okay, so we're gonna say editor GUI dot. Is there something I can do here? I don't want to do begin property because, well, no, that's not what I want. Bounds field. No, 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 no. I just want to have like erect basically, but I can't do actually erect because I need a border. Why do this to me? Drop down button, texture transparent in property. Wait, no, that's not right. In disabled group. Huh. I've never used begin disabled group. Huh. That's interesting. Never used that. Let's see. End property flags, pop out, focus field, fold down. Property height, help box, indented rect, inspector, object field, password field, pop up. Prefix label, property field, rect field. I've never used a rect field either. Huh. Text area, text field. Factors area, okay. Well, come on. Fine, then I'm just going to draw a rect. Draw a rect. We'll say position. I don't know. Color. Just to see what this looks like even. Compile. I wish I remembered how I did this for my editor scripting before. Because I made a crazy drop-down thing for arbitrarily rendering out prefab inspectors. It was a similar interface to this. Oh, good. Really, though. Freaking not gonna be mad. I'm very mad, but I'm not. I'm gonna try not to be. Because of course it's the actual freaking color white. God, you gotta be kidding me. All right, let's try this instead. I'm just gonna move this all the way down to here. Is equal to width and position dot x is equal to cached x. Cool. Let that compile. I just want to see if putting it behind it, rendering it over everything else will work, but that honestly would surprise me if it did. It's just doubly annoying because I've done something like exactly what I'm trying to do before, and I can't even remember how I did it. Yep, that's about the effect I was expecting. And if we just move you up, I can't do anything with you, huh? Oh, wait. I didn't, Well, maybe that's why. Okay, let's try that again. Because you can see that the toggle colors should change. Actually, it won't change for this one because it's rendering out over it. But when I put it back, you should see the toggles become much darker, similar to what these toggles look like. Because now the field is being rendered over it, and that would make sense. That would be that makes sense to me why I couldn't interact with it. So if I got rid of this, and just kept this here, you'll notice that the toggles will become darker to show that they're drawing above it. But for seemingly no reason, I cannot interact with it. Which actually might just be because its area of interaction is too small. So, yes, I see. Very good. Let's try this. Really? Well, nobody likes you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and change this to... I'm not going to change its width, actually. Just going to keep it as it is. Crap! That does mean I have to do this, which is unfortunate. Paste this in. I also love that I got sidetracked by aesthetics in the editor. I'm sorry. Prototyping is no excuse for sloppy editor controls. Alright, so once that's compiled, my drop-down width should now be the entirety of that rectangle. There it is. So it's a area thing. Interesting. Okay. Well then, let's go ahead and say, so we don't want my position dot width to be equal to single line height, apparently. But that actually should work. Whatever. Let's just make it equal to like something stupid, like I don't know, 30f. That seems fine. An arbitrary width is annoying, but it'll work. I hate magic numbers like that. I try to work within named values as much as possible, but sometimes for UI you gotta fudge it. Okay, so I am like 90% sure. Yep, there it is. It's very subtle, but like, actually that's even weirder. It's almost like whatever. Well, let's go ahead and make it 60. Just keep doubling it until we can interact with it. Oh, and purely out of curiosity, I am going to draw editor GUI dot draw rect position new color 0.5f 5f 0.5f not fm just 1f. Cool. So this should tell me the actual bounds of the rect, and I should be able to click within reason. Which, by the way, this is if you're doing any sort of editor scripting and you're not sure where some of your controls are going, it's a very useful thing to just make a rect transform or do editor GUI.drawRect to see where your position is. So as you can see, like my actual clickable area is surprisingly and frustratingly large. That's so dumb. If I make you 30 again, what do you think you are? Although I will say it's really annoying. For some reason, Recs, when they're being drawn, tend to flicker in and out of existence. So let's see. This must be farther left than I would expect. It is. It's over here. But that's so freaking weird. Why are you like that? That's so weird. Okay. Whatever. We'll go ahead and make this 50, I think will be fine. We want it to more or less match up with the actual positioning of the triangles. Let that compile, and we'll see it, and then magic. Once it compiles, of course. Let's see here. So now I should be able to click. Yep. It's annoying because we still do get the caret instead of the pointer. but at the very least it works. Okay. So let's see. Next, we're going to want to get rid of this. Get rid of you. Okay. So next we have our command property field. So we're going to say position dot width plus not width, sorry. Dot x plus equals position dot width, and then we will say position dot width is equal to width minus position dot width, and we're going to multiply that by 0.5f. I don't know why I did such a roundabout way of coding that. Okay, so that should now position our command field. So we will have a string field there, and then abracadabra, abracadabra. Oh my god. Frickin' really? Fine. And then I need to apparently subtract, I don't know. Do I even need to increment the freaking width? I'm just curious to see if I even need to change the position there. You would think, logically, yes, I would. But in all fairness, it's entirely possible that I actually don't. Or I have to increment it by something stupid like 20 instead of 50 to match the width there. Oh my god, I really didn't. Seriously? Okay, well, if nothing else, anyone who's watching, be aware that apparently, for some reason, editor GUI.foldout puts the foldout in a weird spot. I have no idea why. But it's very annoying, so we're just going to leave that like that, I guess. So, yeah, we don't really care about this then. I think we can just do this. Let's see. We might have to fudge this a little bit, but that should cause it to be wide enough. Because we want the command to be one of the larger fields, because that's one of the most important things for these. The actual reference. Wow, are you serious? It is so small. So small. Whatever. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. We'll say position.x plus equals position.width. And then we'll say position.width. I don't really care. I don't need to change that because it's already half of its width. So we're just going to let that go. And see what this field looks like. Oh, what happened here? Oh, I said equals, not plus equals. That would be a good reason for it to freak out like that. It is exciting though, working on the groundwork for a new combat system. I hate you, Unity editor, so very much. Okay. And then we're going to have to do this. Nope, can't do that. Minus 50F. I'm going to throw that magic number in there because actually that's that 50? Yeah, I think that's 50. Let's see what happens here. If it works perfectly, I'm going to be kind of annoyed. Well, it did neither of those things. I don't even know how it got... God, working with invisible rectangles is quite annoying for some reason. So, yeah, we're just gonna... Jeez. Yep. Okay. So, for the sake of my own sanity, I have to do it backwards to front. Otherwise, it won't match up with other dots. Because I can't be happy. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do this. Get rid of all of this. I am just going to comment this out so that we know what a working version of this looks like. Comment you. I'm going to grab these, and we are going to position them all. Okay, so we're going to put you in last. It's going to look like this. Position.x is equal to cached x, and position.width is equal to, I guess, 50f, and then we need to say position.x is equal to that, plus editor GUI utility dot single line height. Okay. Then, in addition to that, we are going to have our timeline field go first, which will be, say, position dot x plus equals, I guess it would be position dot width, which actually means I would want this to go after that. Let that go. Then we'll say position x minus equals position dot width. Let's go ahead and backspace this, and we're going to move command down below that. And then I think we'll be in a good spot, but we'll find out. So this is probably going to have my fields be all kinds of jumbled. But if I was even remotely correct in my assumptions, then it should be somewhat close. And so close. All right. That just means that I need to move, let's see, this. So we're going to say position dot x plus equals, excuse me, plus equals, I'm going to say 45, not 50. I want a little bit of a gap. Let's see what this looks like. Doing combat in my game now too. Lots of work. Cool. How are you working on it? Like, what's your mechanical approach? Is it like Skyrim, Oblivion type thing where you click to, just basically whack an enemy until it dies? Or is it something more involved? What's the approach? Oh my goodness. I'm like halfway there. So we're going to change you to 40, I think. Get like way too bogged down in details for this stuff. But once I'm done, it's going to look really, really, really good. Or at least it better. Otherwise, I'm going to be very sad. See, but now I got all this space here, which means that I need to change you to 30. And then I guess that means that I need to do position dot width plus equals 10f. See, now I'm using magic numbers, which I hate to do. I really don't like magic numbers, but they're kind of the only thing I can do for a lot of editor scripting. FPS, Skyrim style, manual aiming, not MMO style. Okay. Doing mob AI, pathfinding, melee combat, death looting animations. Ugh. That's like Far Cry level stuff. Alright, this is good enough. Cool. So now we have fields for our commands. So this is the string that players will type in. We have a field for our referenced playable director. Don't really need a lot of real estate there, so it's fine to have it be like that. Let's see, does this look consistent when we scale it? Hooray, it does, and that's all I care about. Okay, so next we have criteria, and this is where things get super, 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 super fun. And by fun, I mean not very. So, this little property.isExpanded thing is one of the reasons why we got a little... so we're going to say if our property is expanded, which means that if our toggle has been opened, like so, then we want it to expand. So we want to say, this is going to suck. I'm going to say serialized property. Criteria. Oh, jeez. I really wish. Jeez. Actually, hold on. I wonder, can I do this? Based on get property height, based on property dot find property. Oh, property dot find property relative criteria. I really want to know if this will work. Label, I guess. I'm curious to know if this is going to work. So we'll say height plus equals that. I will be very surprised if it's that convenient. Certainly not that crazy, no physics. What? You're not going to have procedural hand animations based on the player just mashing their hands into the mesh of something else? I'm disappointed. Come on, man. Well, that actually might have worked. Holy crap. Well, I might have found a nice little shortcut for myself there. That's exciting. Okay, oh, except I have to draw it, which complicates things vastly. Or do I? Oh, I might be able to just do that. If property dot is expanded, editor GUI dot prop. Shoot. Okay, timeout. Property dot width. Nope. Not property. Position dot width is equal to width, and then position dot height is right. Oh, guess we're storing that. Float height is equal to position dot height. I really don't like caching things like this. Why do you have squiggles when you shouldn't be wrong? As equal to height. Okay, and then we're going to say height minus editor GUI utility dot single line height. Okay, that's good, and then we will finally round that out with position dot y plus equals editor GUI utility dot single line height, and then we'll just say editor GUI dot property field position with property dot find property relative mixed with that. So criteria. Let's see if that works. If it does, I'm going to be so happy. If this works out as I'm hoping it will. So what I'm hoping is going to happen is that it's going to draw our property field in here, and it's going to be just an array that I can then click on, and then it'll automatically open. No! Oh, wait, time out. Wow, that was not at all what I wanted to do. There we go. Let's see. We might get lucky. Let's find out. Once that compiles. Well, I was playing around with the physics building system, but it was unreliable. The crazy flipping out stuff too often. So what physics building system were you working with? Are you talking about like just using PhysX or like a custom physics system that you were building? Moment of truth. No! I was so close! Aw, dang it. Well, that's so disappointing. Okay, I'm going to do a couple of things. First up, we're going to fix that. And then I kind of wonder... Editor GUI utility dot... Is there like a height? No. I really don't want to have to use like system.reflection or anything. Let's see if there's something online about this. Unity. Not det property height, get property height. Oh, Is that really all it is? Eh. Well, there we go. We'll just pass in, yeah, that whole thing. See if that works. Okay. Let's hope that that works, because that would be pretty baller. I don't know why I've been using the word baller so much tonight, but I've used it twice, which is 2 more times than I use in my daily use. Okay. Come on, you know you want to work. You want to work. You know. Oh, my work. Oh, yes! Yes! Okay, cool. Cool. So, quick tip. If you're doing custom editor scripts, or rather custom property drawers in Unity, editor GUI.getPropertyHeight will get the property height for you dynamically, so you don't have to like loop through and try to manually build it yourself and get property height. That is great. Okay, cool. That made my life so much easier here. So we don't actually have criteria for these, but you know, I just wanted to have them if necessary. And everything else does seem to work. Oh, except for you. You don't work because you're terrible. Well, it was almost perfect. Whatever. That's my own criteria thing. Okay, so we're going to let that go. We don't need criteria. I can leave all those alone. Cool. So that is the base property drawer for our combat actions. Now, do we want to have any extra information associated with stances? I can't really use an enum because that would change from fight to fight. But I could have health, probably like a health range. That probably wouldn't be too bad. So let's go ahead and go back here to combat action. I'm sorry, combat stance. So I guess we would have a public vector to int, and this would be health range is equal to vector to int dot 0. We'll say tooltip. The range, wow, that's not at all correct what I wanted. So we'll say health range that, wow. I don't even know how to phrase this. Basically, this will be, the health range is the range of health that the enemy will use this stance in. So I guess I can type that range of HP that the enemy will use this stance in. So basically, if we have, let's say, so our troll has 5 health total. So we might have a health range from 2 to 5, and that uses one stance, and then we might have another stance from 0 to 1 that has a different set of actions. Okay, that works. So let's go ahead and let that load up, and we would that means I would have to have a custom inspector for that too. I could have custom property drawers for my freaking combat. What does I call that? It's not combat action. Combat stance. So we would have a health range of, let's do 2 to 5. So this, I'm assuming for the initial troll test, we would have 2 ranges. We'd have 0 to 1, and these actions would be, actually, we'd probably only have 1. This would be charge. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I know it's going to do something cool. So let's go ahead and save this. All right. So the next step in this is going to be um, setting up timelines. And this is also where it gets somewhat more complicated because we are going to have timelines reference other timelines to control the flow of combat, which means that we would actually. So this is going to be super weird because we're going to have timeline scripting that dynamically changes on the fly, kind of. So basically, we would have multiple timelines that get referenced by a single timeline, and then we would say, okay, depending on if the previous timeline was a success or a fail, I'm sorry, depending on if this current timeline ends with success or failure, you'll do two different things. Well, one of two different things. So let's say that I go through, as I was explaining earlier, and I choose to go left. So I type left in. Then we'll do the left timeline, and in the left timeline, we'll have a prompt for the club getting swung at you, and you'll have to dodge. Now, if you don't dodge, then the timeline will say, okay, you failed. We're just going to play another timeline of you recovering and going back to the starting position. And then it'll, go back to the default idle screen. But if you succeed, then it's going to go to a completely different timeline because that then needs to have more prompts for you, and then of course that one would continue the trend of if you fail or if you do whatever, then a certain series of events would play out. So let's go ahead and turn off this canvas. I'm going to hit save, and let's see. Let's go ahead and create an empty object. We'll call these timelines. We will create a timeline down here. We'll call this, let's group these under specific stances. So we'll call this stance 01. Or actually, how about stance relaxed? It's kind of a awkward thing, but it's fine. Then we'll have initial timeline. Okay, this will be a playable director. Playable director. Of course, it will not play on awake. Everything else is fine. Let's come down here. I'm going to create a folder. We're going to create a timeline assets folder. All right, let's create timeline. We'll call this troll. I'll say troll combat. Jeez, there's going to be a lot of timeline assets here. Troll combat relaxed dash initial attack. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this in here. Right there. All right. We are going to want to have a couple of things. I am going to open up our timeline window. Okay. We're going to add a track group. This will be our camera. Okay. I'm going to add a Cinemachine timeline track. Our main got the hiccups. Good, it already has a Cinemachine brain. Okay. So we're going to drag the main camera in here. We're going to try that again. Okay. So we are going to add a Cinemachine shot. So the shot is going to be of our action camera. I'm also going to go ahead and group these. So we're going to say cameras. Let's move these guys down here. Cool. Grab this. So this shot track is just telling our Cinemachine cameras which camera should have priority. We're going to set up the action camera. Oh, what is going on over here? I don't know what. I'm assuming that's saying status. Huh. Looks like the Cinemachine timeline UI could. Wow, really? Is it really that messed up? Yeah, like this double line here kind of looks like it's a collapsed UI, which really makes me worried. Um, okay, I'm sure it's fine. Uh, anyway, so we're just going to say we want our action camera to be the focus. It's going to be where our camera positions itself, and then we're going to have to move that in space. Excuse me. All right, so this is our initial movements, which will probably be... Actually, it won't have any camera movement itself because it will be you choosing what to do. Well, no. So once you start attacking, it needs to be obvious that you only have a certain amount of time to choose an action. Because obviously, if you choose to attack but then don't type anything, it should inevitably, kick you out and cause you damage. Oh, geez, which is really, really unfortunate because that means that I'm going to need a unique attack animation for the enemy for each victory and failure. It sucks. Okay, so let's see here. What are we going to do? So we would probably have the troll enter a battle position. So we might have it start with the club like on the side like this, but then when the battle starts, it would probably slam it into the ground. So we have some character motion going on there. And then we would have it start approaching you. So you would then be presented with your choices. This is also where it gets a little iffy because we have to position those choices appropriately. And they need to be in... Well, can they be in 3D space or should they be in 2D space? Because I would prefer them... I'd prefer that your options that you're presented, so these canvas objects, I'd prefer that they would be the same size, but they potentially could be positioned uniquely. So let's say like the right is positioned a little bit closer up, the left is positioned, like a little bit further back. Jump would probably also be a little bit further back and above. So you can see like recommendations, maybe? No, we wouldn't want recommendations. But we could use positioning and scaling to indicate correct choices. See, I'm kind of thinking right now of... I need a way to convey to the player that a given choice would be wrong. So, for example, in this case, the Trolls Club is on the right, which means that you don't want to go right because he will just hit you with it. But I need to convey that with my options. So I have 3 options. 2 of them are correct, left or jump. Right is incorrect because you will get hit. I could make it so that right is red, but then that kind of pulls in like colorblind stuff. And what if your favorite color is red? That could confuse you, so I need to be careful with colors. I can't really do that. I'm trying to think of how something like... oh my, Dragon's Lair did this. I think Dragon's Lair had flashes of color to indicate right and wrong. So I could do that, but then I would have to basically... Let me think. Actually, let me check if I can get a sequence of Dragon's Lair to show you what I'm talking about. Who says you can't? Also, so that my video can be copyright claimed by someone. Alright, so, for those who haven't played Dragon's Lair before, this is a 1980s game from Don Bluth and his studio. is this. Okay, this is not what I was thinking of. So you can kind of see very quickly these little flashes. I'm gonna slow this down to like half speed so that you guys can see this. So once choices get presented, you can see little flashes show up. So in this case, you need to go to the right. And these extra prompts are actually something that was added in recently. This must be a newer version of the game. But the idea is that the correct choice is like outlined in a color flash. And there may be occasions where you have multiple choices and bad choices are possible. So you could potentially choose something that will actually kill you. I wonder if we'll get to an example of that. Probably not. So that's probably good enough. But that's certainly a direction that I can go for this. It just means that the player can't really immediately start typing. They have to kind of awkwardly wait, and I would prefer that not to be the case. I want the player to have some control. Well, no, see, here's the thing. The player already has to strategize in the sense that they have to choose a direction. If they have to wait to get information about that choice while a timer is counting down, that might make things too frantic. I mean, that would be fine in certain fights, and I can certainly, just like shorten the time on that. Although, I guess that duration would just be however long the timeline is. But I need to convey that. So I have to convey a timer, and I also have to convey danger. What can I do there? Well, I might have to sketch up some designs for this because I could see this going a couple of ways, and I need to be careful. Because if I want there to be wrong choices, I have to make sure they are clearly conveyed. And when I say clearly, I don't mean like flashing lights saying don't choose this. But I need some method of reliably and quickly understanding that a given choice, in this case the right, is wrong. I could do that with scaling, maybe make it smaller than the other ones, but I don't necessarily know if I want to do that because there are situations where I want to like have a option be visible somewhere off in the distance, and you just didn't really think about it. You just have to pay attention to your choices to see it. So scaling is unreliable in that respect. Color is unreliable because your favorite color might be red, in which case your attack choices would light up red whenever you start typing them. And therefore I wouldn't want to flash the wrong choice to be red because that would just indicate to you that you should choose it. It also has implications with color blindness. I could do designs. Or, what about... No. I don't want to just have the player learn through trial and error. That's not a good choice. So... Yeah, I think I'm gonna retreat for the night and come up with some design sketches for this. I need to figure this out. So we got pretty far though. I mean, we do have a new combat manager script started with a fancy editor, and I learned some new fancy editor tricks, which always makes me excited. But we also have an idea and a design strategy going forward. I just need to iron out details on something like this. Because combat is not a central mechanic necessarily to Text Quest, but it is one that I want to feel fun. fix my quad wolf screenshot bug. I did see that. Um, that is disappointing. You should just have a 1 in 10,000 chance of spawning a quad wolf still. Uh, what was causing the issue for that, by the way? Um, okay, so possible choices going forward would be things like flashing colors, or maybe like a strike through. That could work. So if I did something like this, let's see, basic attack here. We change this to something like that. That's not exactly what I would prefer, but it could potentially make it obvious that that's wrong. If we make that line a different color. I wonder if we can actually even do that. I don't think I've ever done color coding with the lines before. Did give me an idea of adding extra heads to the wolf model. Coding work was intentionally split up over 4 frames and it's been like that for a year, so I don't know why it just now broke. Huh. Weird. Wait, encoding work? What do you mean? For the wolf's animations? So we could do a strike through like that. We could also do underline. I think that's you. I prefer not to do underline though because it's too close to the borders, which makes it hard to see. Although do keep in mind that highlight is initially disabled, so you don't really see anything there until you start typing. But strike through is less useful than I would like. What can I do there? I could, I suppose, have it instead of be options for like left and right. It would say something like get hit, but I don't think people would choose that. That's too obvious. So I don't know. I don't know what could work here. Reading the pixels from the texture buffer. Oh, okay. Work down a little at a time. The texture is supposed to be a copy. Huh. Okay. So wait, is that like a post-processing effect that only did that to the wolf then? Interesting. I wonder why. So I sup. No, I don't want to do that. Well, that might be interesting. What if no, the highlight is meant to show you which one you started typing. I was gonna say I could like turn off the highlight on the ones that are wrong and leave the other ones untouched, but they'll be disabled anyway. Jeez, I cannot believe that I can't think of this. There has to be a way to do this. Oh, okay. It was okay. I get it. Um, I didn't realize it was a bug for your screenshot. I thought it was a bug for the model of the wolf specifically. That's pretty funny though. Huh? Why would you split encoding up over 4 frames? Is that just like the process of encoding it is split up there, or you're like actually sampling pixel data over 4 frames? Because I don't really know what you gain from that for a screenshot tool. Splitting it up across frames like that. Let's see. So highlight doesn't really work. Strike through doesn't really work. Color doesn't really work. Text doesn't really work. I'm running out of things I can do here. I could maybe tint the background, maybe, but that's still that still messes with people who have color blindness, so I'd prefer not to do that. Um, jeez. Hmm. So I could do something like this, where instead of being like solid black, I could like tint it reddish, but that I feel would be confusing and wouldn't really work very well. Just to keep smooth, or smooth that works with less of an FPS hit. Good for doing screenshots in the background for autosave files or such. Well, that makes sense, but do you have to space out pixel gathering like that? Like, wouldn't you just grab the pixels from the initial screen or the initial frame and use that, as opposed to sampling it from 4 other frames or 3 other frames? So, I don't know. This might require an entirely different approach to my highlighting solution right now. Um, so I will have to think about this. Might have to play some like Typing of the Dead and a couple of other games with prompts that are timed to figure out how I want to handle this. Maybe boot up something like Telltale. Wow, that describes so many games. Specifically Walking Dead. See how they handle it, because it's been a while since I've looked at that. So, all right, that's a pretty good place to stop for the night. We got a combat system started. Figured out some new editor tricks. Huh. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and call that a night, I think. So, as always, I want to thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.